Hey, welcome back to Hold On My Baguette. This is the fourth episode? I don't even remember. I just recorded one yesterday. I don't know where am I in my schedule. In this episode, I've made a PowerPoint to explain all my law on my life for the past 8 years. Why 8 years, you might ask? Because for me, my life, I will say, for me, it really started when I was 18, because that was just after high school, after I finished everything, and I started to live by myself and move and everything. And it's been, yes, 8 years because I'm 26, so here we are. But before, of course, we're gonna have a little chit chat, a very short one because I recorded an episode yesterday, so I don't have much to say since the last one. But still, I have two main things I want to share. First one, sometimes I get really excited about what I eat, but usually that's the most boring dinner we'll have. But for me, it's peak time. And I had one of those yesterday. I was thinking of having chickpeas, and I was so excited to have roasted chickpeas. But it came to my mind that maybe I should have something else. I mean, not something else, but just something with the chickpeas, so it would be a bit more fun. I'm on my period, so I thought, oh, you know what, I should have some lentils. That would be so fun, and I'm gonna have some iron. The thing I'm eating, not that much actually, and I should have probably more meal with iron in it. But anyway, and then I just remember I had tofu in the fridge. So I just started having these chickpeas in the oven, so they will be roasted. I cut a few slices of tofu, put the slices in some soy sauce, and they joined the chickpeas in the oven. And meanwhile everything was cooking, I was also doing the lentils in a curry sauce. And I was so happy to have my little meal afterwards. I was like, oh wow, that doesn't seem really good or great, but it was so good. And I was so happy, and I had exactly the same thing for lunch. Still so good. And the second thing, which will be the last, is I think something clicked in my brain today. So sometimes someone is telling you in information, and that's very basic knowledge, like if you drink water, maybe you will feel better. If you have some water, maybe you won't have so many headaches. So I knew for a fact that if someone was active, they were less likely to have cramps during their periods. I'm active every day, and I thought it was just in a way of going out and walking and having your 10k step a day, and that was fine. Since last month and the months before, my period was so intense, and I was that was awful, okay? That was awful. I was just in a fetus position for 2 days. I thought, you know what, it's just my periods, they're like really hurting. And yesterday, I just got my period and nothing. I wasn't feeling anything. I was like, okay, wait, let's wait for the second day to see if it's still the same thing, because sometimes it just, your body need a bit more time, and then it just arrive and you're like, okay, now I can feel it. So this morning I woke up, still nothing, and I was, oh my god, so the legend is true. If I'm active, it's fine. And I just remember it happened to me once this year when I was running a lot and doing Pilates, and I'm like, oh wow, so it's not a coincidence, it's really a thing. I don't know, it's just so magical to me that I'm actually not hurting right now. So you bet you will see me doing my little yoga Pilates thing every day. Now that we had our little chat, it's time to jump in our PowerPoint. And when I'm saying a PowerPoint, it's actually a presentation on Canva, but it's more or less the same thing. The cover is 8 years of law. I kind of like it. I try to got the same colors as stars behind me. Same thing if you're listening to this podcast just in audio. I think you might switch to the video, so you might, actually see the presentation. That would be nicer for you, I think. But you can keep listening by audio, that's fine as well. Let's start with the beginning. I was born in 1999, in June, the 4th of June to be really precise. And I grew up in the northeast of France, in Lorraine. That's the most basic introduction, and you don't need to know more about that. We jumped directly in 2017. It's right after high school. I just got my A level. I think I got it with 14 something, and I was studying economics and sociology, mainly with some sort of option for English. So after high school, the main thing was to pick where you wanted to go for your studies, and I picked Bordeaux, which was 800 kilometers from where I grew up, which was like a big change, but I was fine with it. It's September 2017, and I just moved really far away for the first time to study some sort of bachelor in economics, Russian, and English. Don't ask, that's a thing we are doing in France. It is still the same year, and a month after a few difficulties and problems in my life, I dropped out. Sad. The next month, it's November, and I'm starting my YouTube channel because, to be fair, now I'm not going to uni. I'm still in Bordeaux, which wasn't even Bordeaux, it was a suburb. I'm living alone, I'm seeing no one, so I do have a lot of free time, and it's the best time for me to actually start what I always wanted to do. I launched my YouTube. We are now in 2018, and it's mostly the same thing. I spend months in my flat, seeing no one, editing all day, making videos, and just learning and trying to develop my YouTube channel. I think at some point I do create an Instagram so I can talk about my video online as well. And yeah, that's mostly what I'm doing with my life. Nothing really fancy or fun. That leads us to September when I came back to school, because even if I really like being behind my computer and just editing, I was like, okay, I need to do something with my life. I need to go back to school and study something. So this time I switched from the uni, which was public in France, to a private school to study some communication / marketing, Photoshop, sociology. Like, after a few months, it's 2019, and guess what? I stayed in that degree for 6 months. I actually passed the exams, and after that, in April, I just left. But of course, I'm not living without a plan. It's April, and I'm actually going to England, in Rugby to be precise, to be an au pair. Don't ask me why. I never babysit in my life. I don't have any siblings. I don't have any young children in my life, or like neighbors or anything. But I think really wanted to go to England, and that was at the time my best option. So I just Skype with a few families, one say yes, and I was okay, I'm gonna go now. I'm just gonna be an au pair. See you all. And I think it's really funny because at the time I didn't realize how it was such a big thing, because it's a thing to go study abroad or working abroad, because it's something real in a way. But being an au pair, you don't have a contract. The family I found, it was just on a random website. It wasn't an agency or anything, and I never saw these people before. So I just randomly decided to live with strangers and take care of their children for a few weeks. It could have been way worse. We are 2 months later now, it's June, and I'm coming back to France for working during the summer. I'm working in a very nice shop. No, it's a lie. It's actually a famous one, but I'm not gonna say anything more about that because I don't want to promote more fast fashion. And then, in September, I'm back in the south of France to study again, another degree. This time, because after trying the private school, I was like, okay, so our system in France for public university is actually great. So I'm gonna stay with that and I'm gonna go back to uni, but for English this time. So it was basically what I was doing the first time, but minus economics. And I took Russian as a minor. So it was basically English literature, history, civilization, phonetics, and a bit of Russian. We are jumping into 2020. I actually succeed and passed the exam for my first year, mainly because it was COVID and everything was online, so I hadn't really had the chance to go physically to my classes, and it was way easier online. But still, after a few years, that was the first time I was actually doing 1 year entirely for my degree. So yay, clap clap, thank you so much. The summer passed. I'm coming back in September to start my second year of uni, And after 2 months, I'm stopping again. Yeehaw! And I do have a story time about that. Remember where I was working during the summer? The shop do have several shops in France. So I started working for them again as a student job during the weekend. And there, I realized one of my coworkers was actually one of my classmates. We started talking, being friends, and then she was like, okay, so we can work together for this second year, but you have to promise me that you are actually gonna go to class, And I was like, yeah. And I dropped out a month after, and I still feel bad about this, so if you're listening to me, sorry. Didn't plan to. It's a few weeks later, it's November. Like a few years before, I'm starting a new project. At that point, I'm still using my YouTube channel, but I just needed something to use as a more long format because I love talking. And that's how I just started to record my podcast in French. It's now 2021, and I'm gonna leave you think about what I can do in 2021. Okay, you ready? In 2021, I decided to study another degree, this time in England, in Bournemouth, and to study VFX. And I know at that point you might ask, why VFX? Because even in France, it wasn't a thing, and that's why I decided to go to England, because the thing I wanted to study was VFX, but more in the 3D sense or 2D, which wasn't what we had in France. In France, it was more animation, modelization. It wasn't exactly that, and there was so many good schools in England. The first one I wanted to go in was one in London, but at that time the Brexit was already here and that school wasn't able to sponsor me, so I had to look for another one, and the best next option was AUB, the Arts University of Bournemouth. So I just jumped there and I think I was really lucky because since it was the year after COVID, that was one of the only time that some sort of exam they did to plan if you were gonna be a student or not was actually online, which was really nice for me because obviously I was in France, and if I had to actually flew there, I don't know if it would have been an option for me. It's just really random. I was watching a video on YouTube about VFX. I deep dive into research and a lot of things, and that's how I just found out you can actually study VFX. And I don't know why, I just spent hours watching and reading the program. Then I was, oh, it seemed really fun. I kind of want to study this. I don't know, then my brain was focused on that. The minute my brain is on something, that's the end of everything else. I could hyper focus until I got this, and I just moved to England to study VFX. It's now 2022. I actually passed my first year, and that's actually the first time I had to work for my exam, because usually I was just like there and not really doing anything, and it was still fine. But this time was different. I had actually to put some work to succeed, but it was fine. Everything was fine. And it's now the second year after summer, after everything. It was really fun that summer actually, because Bournemouth, if you don't know, is literally in the south of England. So for just a 10-minute walk, I was having the beach, and that was so nice, honestly, so nice. I remembered coming back for this second year being like, oh my god, my life is gonna change. I'm actually gonna finish a degree and, having a job and everything. And then it's been way different. I mean, it wasn't different because that's something I done before. A few months later, in March 2023, I dropped out again. And I do have some explanation for this. The first year, it was pretty much just following tutorials, and we were acting like we were in some sort of agency. It was a lot of group projects, and it was just copying what our teacher were doing, basically. I knew how to do things, but I was not really learning. I knew because I was copying what I was seeing. But if you ask me to do the same thing but in a different way, I wasn't able to do it. And at that point, I started seeing a few differences with my classmates, because some of them were staying all night long at school for working and doing a lot of stuff, which I wasn't, because the thing about me is I really liked all my studies, really, but it just, every time I needed my time to focus on my own project. If at some point my study became my first time-consuming activity, and then I wasn't able to do my podcast or my YouTube channel, it was not what I wanted, and that's how it just started being not what I really expected. I was thinking that I could study and add my own project on the side, but VFX is a very different type of study, and even just as a job, you need to think VFX all day long. And just how everything is working is you're gonna be in a studio, in a room, and mostly in the dark all day, because you need to see the color on your screen properly, and for that you need to be in the dark. And when I started realizing this, I was like, oh my god, I can't do this. I can't be seated without sunlight all day long for all my life. It's not gonna work. And then when I started my second year, and the first semester was perfect. It was really fun. We had a lot of projects, and I was like, oh, okay, nice. I'm learning new things. And at that point, I was studying there for a year and a half. And randomly, on the day we started the second semester, a teacher came and he was like, okay, now you do know all the basic, and you're gonna start your final project for the third year now, and you're just gonna be in your group doing your own thing without us. You won't have any more classes. You can ask for help, but it will be just you and your project. And I was just, okay, shit, because one, where I was seeing everyone being excited and everyone being confident in their own skills, that they can do their own things without any tutorials, and just every step explained by the teacher was, okay, we're not on the same page. And secondly, what I really liked before was, if I was not going to a class because I wanted to do something else, like my project, or because I wasn't feeling great mentally, it was okay. No one would care. But right now, I was like, if we are gonna be in a group for the project that gonna be our main project, the project we're supposed to do with other major for third year, people will count on me. I can't just disappear. I have to be here. I have to help the people. I cannot just leave. But I knew deep down that I was gonna leave. So I just thought, you know what, I should maybe disappear before being in a group and just leaving people randomly in the mid-project. And that's just how I dropped out. And also because I wasn't sure of myself, and I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna like this, and even if I do, that's not the job actually I want to do afterwards. And yes, I know I was mid-degree, but it was still, when you think about it, it was still a lot of money, even for a year and a half. And I was, you know what, I should more keep that money for myself than spend it on something I won't use. It's how, in April 2023, I came back to France, I moved to Paris, and I started a new job. To explain, the new job was retail. That was mainly the thing I was working in during the summer or the weekend. And it was really fun because at that point, the first interview was in Paris, and I wasn't living in Paris. I was still in the northeast of France. So I had to take a train, a 2-hour train, to have my first interview. And I got the job right away. And the guy was like, "Can you start in 2 days?" And I was, yay, yeah, sure. I do know people in Paris. That's fine. Which was true, technically. I just called someone, one of my friends, and I was like, so we saw each other a few days ago. Can I live in your place now, please? Everything changed so quickly and randomly. And then after a few weeks, not even, maybe 1 week or 2, I found my own place outside of Paris in the suburb, and that's where I stayed for 2 years. We are now in 2024, and guess what? The first months of the year, I quit my job. Yay! To be fair, it was for good reason, and you will see, and I think it's just some sort of how it is. The environment I was working in retail was really toxic, and so many different things happened. At a point I was, I can't do this shit anymore, so I just quit. A few months later, in May/June, with a friend, we created our own music collective in Paris to organize events with DJ, and I was doing like the communication on socials. I was trying to find the places, the venue, to sell the tickets, find a DJ, basically everything. That was really fun. And a few weeks after that, so the same period of time, I started my new job. Still in retail, still in Paris, and still making events at the same time. It's now July. It's our first event. It's really fun. It's a lot of work. And I like it, but I don't really sleep. And that summer is pretty busy, not gonna lie. A few months later, the job I was thinking was so nice and such a change from the previous one turns out to be as toxic as the last one, and I quit again. And that's how we arrive in 2025. This year it's been so fun. It was a lot of events in Paris with my music collective, so it was a lot of same thing, but just filming, trying to sell tickets, being in charge of the communication, the design, and a lot of things. That was really cool, really fun. Then a few weeks later, I started learning how to DJ as well. So in May 2025 was actually my first show. I mean, not show, but it was the first time I was playing as a DJ and not just as someone who was organizing the events. In June, I went to Berlin for the first time, and in July 2025, I moved to Berlin. I just visited the place once, and I wasn't speaking any German, but I just moved a month later. And we arrived to the last slide, called October/December 2025. And during these 3 months, I got a job in Berlin. I started a new podcast in English, the one you are listening to. And who knows what's next. But yeah, now you do have all the background and all the major plots of my life and how I just moved to Berlin. I hope maybe, and I think it would be nice for me as well to have some sort of summary of my life that I could just copy paste to people, because, and when people are asking me about my studies about my previous work, every time I'm like, oh shit, it is gonna be so long, I don't know how to explain everything. So now, just watch the video if you want to know, and if you don't want to know, fine. But at least I don't have to repeat myself over and over again, because there's so many things I have to explain. Now everything is here. Hope you like it. I will see you next Thursday. See you. Bye bye.